All right, y'all. Broken Pieces, episode 3.
We back at it.
Set it off. Where we starting?
All right. So the last segment we left off. What were we talking about when we ended?
All the moves that we made.
Oh yeah. So some of the moves that we're making. So for this one, we could get into
current stuff.
We'll talk about that at the end. Let's talk about for people looking to leave the 9 to 5.
All right, y'all.
So I was talking about that earlier.
So check this out. I was talking with a friend, and she has a pretty good job, and she was talking about she wants to quit. She gonna quit in a few months, and basically she wants to just be an entrepreneur, right? And to me, that sounds crazy because if you got a good job, you use that job as like leverage so you can build your business and build your business and build your business. But to go from having a consistent established source of income to nothing or to next to nothing,
right,
is pretty like you sick in the head.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's because we glamorize entrepreneurship. And for you guys who know about my story, you have to you can't skip the part where I was working full time, I was in school full time, and I was working on the business
full time as well.
Yeah, full time. I did 3 things full time. I don't even know when I was sleeping.
Yeah.
But he'll tell you when we were out traveling around, it's nice where, before we even go party or whatever, like on a weekend, me and him in a different country, we go party on the weekend or something, we put on our laptop to knock out our schoolwork, we put on our laptop to knock out, our business stuff, to do our research before the fun starts, So, and it took 3 years before I made real money, right? And if I didn't have another source of income, I would have sank. So, you know how the statistic goes, 4 out of 5 businesses go out of business. Well, the thing is, you're going to set yourself up for failure if you don't have a consistent source of income to fall back on. So when I started my company, there was no pressure for me to hurry up and make a gazillion dollars because I knew there was still a check coming from here, still a check coming from here, still a check coming from here. So when the business wasn't doing as well, I didn't have to question, am I doing the right thing? Or I didn't have to question, should I still be buying inventory? Should I pay for this ad? This is my last dollar. This is my last dollar. This is my last whatever, because I had other sources of income. Had I not had other sources of income, I would have been making desperate moves, So that's what happens. You start throwing up Hail Marys, and because you need something to work. You don't have this sense of patience. So I was kind of talking to her about it. I'm like, nah, you gotta wait until something is kind of now don't get me wrong, if you working at McDonald's and you say, fuck McDonald's, then cool, it's fuck McDonald's, But
that's what we were talking about earlier. There's certain jobs where it's kind of like that fuck you job. It don't really matter, right? You can
skate by.
Yeah, you can skate by, so it doesn't really matter. There are people that have great jobs that have great benefits, and like we were talking about earlier, is you need to set yourself up if you want to become an entrepreneur, because I think what so many people think when they become an entrepreneur, that means that they're going to work less, they're going to be able to party more, when it's actually the complete opposite, right? So many people glorify entrepreneurship, and it's fun and it's great because we get to do things that we want to do. But the thing is,
it's only cool when it works.
It's cool when it works, right? But what people need to realize is that the cool doesn't come until after you put in those years of the grind, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what works. So a lot of people always ask, when should I quit my 9 to 5? When should I quit? Well, it's going to vary based on person, but I always like to tell people, wait until you're making consistently on your entrepreneurship journey. Wait until you're making that same amount that you're making to survive off of. Wait until you get to that consistently for at least 6 months to a year.
Especially if you have a career.
Especially if you have a career, because so many people will just throw their career away, try the entrepreneurship route, realize that it doesn't work, and now you're kind of SOL. So it's this great company, this great pay that you had, you quit on them. So it's now you're trying to claw your way back, and there's no guarantee that you'll even be able to get back into that position that you had, or even that company that you had, because now they're going to be thinking, if you
why should we invest in you?
Why should we invest in you?
Exactly.
So it's you're almost pretty much having to start from scratch, trying to jump into this entrepreneurship race when it's a race as well. Just like the 9 to 5, we call that the rat race. This entrepreneurship is also a race as well, because you have to out hustle the next person who's trying to out hustle you as well. So it's when you're in that 9 to 5, you're competing against the people that you work with, and then when you come into this entrepreneurship world, there's other people that have brands and are trying to create brands. There's other people that have watch brands. There's other people that have, membership-based companies. There's other people that are in real estate. Other people that are great at the stock market. You know what I mean? So
Ain't
it's
no free lunch.
Yeah, there's nothing that's free. All of a sudden, just because you say and you put this title that you are an entrepreneur, that doesn't mean that money's just going to start falling into your bank. That doesn't mean that your problems are going to go away. It doesn't mean any of that. And that's what people need to start realizing.
So why you think there's like a pressure to like hurry up and quit? Like everyone wants to quit their job and just escape slavery and stuff like
because
that.
I think people are in such a rush to quit because they think once you become an entrepreneur, I think they think that that's when you can hit the brake. That's when you can take your foot off the gas. Because I see so many people all the time, they're like, man, I can't wait to become an entrepreneur so I can
That's like the golden ticket. Like,
they're like, I want to chill at the beach and I want to be taking trips, I want to be taking vacations, but they don't really see, they see the entrepreneurs online that post, them maybe working at the beach or doing all these things, but they don't see what's going on besides what people
or if that person's actually making money.
Or if they're actually making money.
Yeah,
right?
like,
someone told me, I forget who it was, but they were saying something about, you can take advice from an athlete, right? If you want to go play football and you have the chance to shadow Tom Brady, you're going to know what you're getting, right? Because you've seen his work, you've seen what he's done. So they say, when you're looking to take financial advice, you don't really know who to take financial advice from
because it all sound good.
People are only showing their right. So someone can have the biggest house, the nicest cars, and you think that they have money, but deep down you don't really know. They could be living check to check and just living a great lifestyle, but they're still living check to check, and like that wouldn't be someone you want to take financial advice from. It's like just because people have got a lot of money, sometimes people get lucky. They you just never know how a person obtained their wealth. So it's like you can't take financial advice.
Somebody could have inherited a bunch of money. Right. Now they're like, this is what you got to do to make money. I feel that way about like people who have like a lot of money. When I say a lot of money, I mean like $25 million plus, and they're like, especially like the popular entrepreneurs, and they're like, make sure that you're sleeping 8 hours a day and work-life balance and blah, blah, blah. Like, bro, that's not how you make your money. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You was busting your ass, bro.
Yeah,
like,
people who really got it are going to tell you there's going to be nights where you're going to lose sleep. There's going to be nights where you got to get up early. There's going to be all type of issues. Like the last podcast, you were down to your last, $26, right? How many people would be able to stomach that? So at the time, I believe,
and I had to come out to Vegas.
At the time, I think you had anywhere between 10 to 20,000 at that time. Mm-hmm. At any given moment, you had, but like you said, you had to spend that money on inventory. You had to put it towards getting out to Vegas. You had to do all these things. How many people?
Company money is not your money. That's what like people don't understand. Like even if I was down in personally like my last $26, and I had to come to Vegas to work a trade show. And the company had money, but I can't take from the company's money because the company still has an inventory to pay for because we still have pre-orders so we have a set of customers that are expecting to get their product by this date or that date, and I gotta pay the manufacturers. You know what I mean? I gotta pay my manufacturers.
And that's where people go wrong. That's how people dig themselves in holes that they can't get out of because they start tapping into their, their money.
Just borrow this,
like when you're in real estate, your money for real estate should be going towards nothing but real estate. It shouldn't be paying off this car or taking care of this.
You can do that once you pay yourself out, but it has to flow first.
It has to flow, right? You have to have a good system. You can't just be, like I said, you couldn't take that money for 17th and use it to fund your lifestyle because then that would have taken away from 17th. So it's like these people, they don't know how to, they live on both worlds where they're making the money for the company and turn around and blowing it on themselves. Yeah. And then it's like, their company isn't growing and they're trying to figure out why. Well, it's because you're taking the money and you're handling personal issues with company money. So it's like you can't mix the two until you have one in order and then you get the other in order. And then, like you said, it flows from there.
So I always see like, there's so many, if you're on like social media and you follow like a bunch of entrepreneurs and stuff, you'll see that there's a gazillion ways to make money, right? Like some people are in like the rental car business, some people are selling digital products, physical products, real estate, blah, blah, blah. It goes on storefronts. It goes on and on and on forever. But check this out, like if you can't manage your personal money, what makes you think all of a sudden you can manage the company's money? You know what I mean? Like you live paycheck to paycheck on your personal money because you don't know how to budget, you don't know how to sit your ass down.
So what makes you think it's going to magically change?
Now, like even if your company is doing numbers, because I meet a lot of people who, their company does numbers, but they're still broke. You know what I mean? Like because they can't manage, they can't budget it. And a lot of it is tied to like your emotions, But like, yeah, if you can't manage your own money, how all of a sudden you're just this financial wizard when it comes to handling your company? You are in charge of your company, you know, so that's kind of like a responsibility that you inherit when you become the owner of a company. You know, when you work at a company, then, you know, your department might have a budget. And if y'all blow that budget, or maybe you're not even the person that's in control of the budget or dealing with the budget,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, so you might get a fraction of the budget to go shop for these supplies. Right. You know what I mean? But like,
it's all for the company, though.
Yeah, but it's all for the company. But like, now you're the company owner. Like, now the whole budget is yours to either do something with or to blow it. And if you couldn't manage your own personal money, I don't understand how people think like.
Yeah, and that's part of one of the steps that it takes to become an entrepreneur. And it's like, that's why so many people need to get certain things handled before they even think about wanting to dive into the, you know, entrepreneurship world, because it's all on you. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
ain't nobody to turn to.
Yeah, there's no one to save you. It's like, you know, when you got
you ain't got no supervisor.
Yeah, you don't have no
like,
supervisor. Exactly. Like there is no steady paycheck that's gonna come in every 2 weeks or every week based on how you get paid. You know what I mean? It's like everything. There's not gonna be no one holding you accountable, telling you that you need to be to work at this time. So it's like you gotta be responsible enough to get that stuff done on your own. It's like you gotta have it in you already, kind of before you start that entrepreneurship journey.
So that's why if you were to launch whatever you want to launch while you're working, then you kind of have like leeway to make your mistakes, you know, because you want to make your mistakes full speed and you want to make them early. So the biggest mistakes that you're going to make in the company hopefully come in the early stages of you starting up. Right. So then you'll know, you know, like you'd rather make a $2,000 mistake or a $20,000 mistake before you start making $200,000 mistakes or $2 million mistakes. So you want to start making these mistakes early. You know, you want to make them often so you can learn from every single step. But it's easier to do this when you have, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That other income.
When you got another source of income, so you don't necessarily need your company's money to pay for this, pay for that. Same thing in investing. You know, it's really easy to be patient or waiting for a trade or waiting for an investment to play out if you don't need the money. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and when you do need the money and one of your positions turns against you, you're not like, should I sell? Like, oh, it's going down. You know, like you down 40% on a $10,000 play. You're like, I could take this last 6 and run, or I could wait it out. And it's way easier to wait it out if you don't need the money. You know, like
a lot easier.
So we were talking about, you know, when the market tanked last year, my entire portfolio went down 70%. And the thing that saved me, like I didn't need a panic at all. Yeah. I had a consistent source of income. You know, it was from other businesses, but I didn't need a panic. I didn't need to say, oh, let me take this last bit out because what if it keeps going lower? You have a different you have a different set of patience. You say, I can wait for these plays to come up, or I can even be aggressive and average down. You know, but you can't do that if you need the money, right? So if you're in a $1,000 play and it goes down 30%, the value is now $700, and then you pop a tire and a full set of tires might cost you $400, right? Well, now that full set of tires has cost you $700 because you had to realize your loss at $300 and then go pay for the tires. So now you just went down $700 to pay for $400 tires. And if you didn't understand what I said, just hit rewind and play that again, because that's how it's gonna work, man. Like,
the math checks out.
Yeah, the math is gonna check out perfectly. And that's the way that it works in the real world. You have this going on, you have this business going on, you have these investments going on, you have this flip working, you're doing construction over here for this real estate, and one of these is going to take a hit. And if you need to back out of it because you can't afford it or because you're afraid, you can't control your emotions, then that play is going to cost you 30, 40, 50% more than exactly what it originally would have. Yep. And you're not budgeting for, like, on your budget, there's not I'm a panic because I'm like a little scary bitch type of fucking column or like row. Like, you're not even gonna budget for this type of stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man, it's crazy because everything is connected. And I say this on social media a lot: is that like your financial journey is a spiritual journey, because you're gonna be tested, like you're gonna see like damn, bro, like
things aren't gonna go out how you plan them to go out. People are gonna act funny towards you, so it's like you're gonna lose so many people along the way, whether it be family members, friends that you've been friends with forever. People are gonna start looking at you sideways. Things aren't gonna go how you expected them to go. It's like
you seen it, like as I was coming up, bro. People be related to me and they can't stand next to me, right? Because it makes them feel a type of way. Like, You know,
it's like what people don't realize is, and you know, we talk about this all the time, is that money only solves money-related issues.
That's
it's not like
almost directly, money solves money problems.
Right.
Anything other than a money problem?
Yeah, like, you know,
all your insecurities, nothing's gonna be covered by money.
Your friends are still gonna have problems. Your family is still gonna have problems.
Yeah.
Random things are still gonna happen.
If you couldn't get a date, you're still not gonna get no dates, man.
Yeah,
or you're gonna get some shit.
You're gonna have shit like people are gonna hit and run your car while it's just sitting at the gym in the parking lot. People are gonna spray paint your house when you first move into it. You know what I mean? It's
bro,
like,
you hear this dude?
You have like people are gonna spray paint Trump on your garage when you first move into your house. Shit like that, right? There's gonna be things that's just gonna come up that it doesn't matter how much money you have, shit is just gonna happen regardless, no matter what.
And like he said, like your money is only gonna solve your money problem. Yeah. So this bill popped up unexpectedly. I need to take care of it. That's what money solves. You know what I mean? Like my mom and my family aren't supportive of anything I do, and they always have something negative to say.
Money ain't gonna fix that.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Shit, your mom's still not gonna like you, bro. Like, it's not gonna happen. So that's these are like, it's definitely like a spiritual journey because you gotta look inside. You know, you're gonna find out where your friends are, whether you're up or whether you're down. You know, and whether I was up or down, like he was still right here. You know what I mean? Like, and earlier today we were talking about this, the value of even having this friendship, because you know, we were talking about these new business ideas that we had, and he was like, yeah, like I need to link up with this person so I can learn about this and learn about that. And I'm just like, that's dope, bro. That's gonna work. You know, like, and I realized there's some people out in the world that you could call your best friend, or you could call your girl and be like, oh girl, check this out. And there's some people that only people who are like next to them are negative people. Like, I couldn't imagine if everything that came out of my mind is rejected by someone who didn't have enough experience to even give me like a proper like review or like a proper opinion. You know what I mean? Like, you're asking your friend who works at like, I don't H&M about a business idea. Like, bro, they're not no business guru, but they'll turn around and give you advice. Like, nah, that's not gonna work. Like, take a step back and think about it. Like, how do they know? You know, nobody knows.
So many people take advice from people that have never done it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's like when you ask those people who are like, oh, don't do this, and you ask them, well, why? Why shouldn't I do this? And they're like, oh, well, I heard it didn't work for so and so.
Yeah.
It didn't work for somebody else that they heard it didn't work for, or they heard of someone. It's never
It's never first hand experience.
It's never I tried it. This is what I did. You know, because the people who've actually done it are going to be the people who motivate you.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh yeah, that's dope. Like, I actually tried to do that. This is what I did. This is why I went wrong. So if you want to try to do that, try to avoid doing this, because that's the bumps that I had in the road. I
felt that way when we were in the military, and like you're about to get out of the military, and somebody's like, oh yeah, well my friend got out of the military and he couldn't find a job, right? And you're like, what they're not telling you is your friend was a scumbag. He was a piece of shit. He was never on time to work. Like, he's not built like me. You know what I mean? Like, so he was shitty before he joined the military. He was shitty in the military. He gonna be shitty after the military. Yeah. So like, why are you pumping that fear onto me? You know what I mean? Like, bro, you see, I do what I gotta do. I do my stuff.
It's so funny because within the Well Squad, and people have reached out to me and they say it's one of the favorite things that they enjoy about the classes that I give is that it's always the positive side of real estate, right? Mm-hmm. So I tell people, like, yes, there are bad things that can happen within real estate, but the way how I teach my classes, I want to be positive and pushing people, because I want to put it in people's mind that it's going to work for you. If you go into something knowing that it's going to work, then it's going to work. If you go into a thing that's going to go wrong, when things do go wrong, you're going to be like, see, I told you. But if you go into it thinking, okay, I'm going to make it work, when something goes wrong, you're like, okay, let me just figure this out and keep it pushing. But when you go into it thinking something's going to go wrong, the moment that something goes wrong, that's what steers people onto a different direction. But if you know in your mind, okay, it's going to work out eventually, like, okay, I got over this bump, let me just keep going. And then you're going to get to another bump. You're like, okay, but I had 6 good months, one bad month, let me keep pushing. Then you got a good year and 1 bad month, and then you got 2 good years and half of a bad month, and before you know, you got 5 good years. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm trying to put this into people because I know it's hard for people to get into real estate. I know it's a difficult world to get into, and I remember those fears that I had, and we used to talk about them all the time. It's like, it's scary getting into real estate because there's so much money behind real estate.
There's so many things that could go wrong.
There's so many things that could go wrong, but if you go into it thinking that, okay, I'm going to stay on top of it, I'm going to do it, all those issues that I think could be problems, I'm going to do everything I can to stay on top of those things to make sure that those things don't happen and come along.
And what's cool about real estate is there's not one issue that you're gonna face in the real estate world that someone else has never faced before.
Right.
None of your problems will be unique. Which means there's an answer, there's a solution
to
somewhere out there.
Your house burning down, someone trashing your house.
Yeah, bro, like you got tenants that won't leave after
like
the lease is like, bro, everybody's dealt with that.
Yeah, like there's a roof collapsing, rodent problems, mold issues.
Anything that you could possibly, like, bro, you can go on Bigger Pockets and just search. You can search mold and find the answers to like, all right, maybe I should consider this. Maybe I consider that.
There's people who bought properties that thought that it was going to work out great, and they've had to tear it down, come out of money, rebuild, and maybe it took them 5 or 10 years to recoup. But it's like there's always an answer. There's always going to be a solution.
None of your problems are going to be
unique. Like none of your problems. Like
that's kind of how life is, though. It is. None of your problems in life are unique to you. And you're kind of selfish for thinking
that it's not happening.
Like you have it the worst, and nobody's ever dealt with this. Nah, bro, you just don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't know my story. Like, nah, bro, somebody else out there got it 10 times
everyone's
worse.
Story is everyone. Like, if you're an American, your story is already better off than a lot of people. That's why I always tell people to travel around the world so you guys can really see how people are living. We see these movies and these documentaries, but it doesn't hit you hard until you actually are in these countries and you see people just sleeping on the side of the street, like kids kicking around rocks because they don't even have enough money to get a soccer ball. Grown men just sitting around talking to each other because there's nothing, they don't have money, there's nothing for them to go do, they can't do anything. I remember when I was in Kyrgyzstan, which is over in Asia, kind of under China and under Russia a little bit.
Is this the country you said was the worst? Is this the country you're like, they didn't even have roads?
They have roads, but they're really bad. Like, they don't have like lines. It's just a free fall out there. But it's like the average person annually at the time that I was out there made about $1,600 a year. That's what the average
American dollars.
The average yearly income was about $1,600.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably went up maybe a little bit since then. Mm-hmm. This was about a decade ago. But it's like, think about that. Like, their average yearly salary was about $1,600.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, working full time.
Yeah, so y'all have to think when y'all hear this, they're still going to put in as much work for their jobs as you do yours.
If not more. Like, some of their labor is way crazier than any. Like, it's crazy out there.
Walking to work or taking motorcycles.
Walking. Like, not even. So it's like people don't realize, even something as simple as having access to a library, having access to a park to go get clean drinking water. Yeah. There's rest stops where people can take showers. You know what I mean?
Even if you're homeless in America, you can go to the park and
there's food banks, there's food shelters, there's churches that donate clothes and banks. You know how grateful a lot of people would be in different countries to have like a church that gives out free clothes and free shoes. You know what I mean?
Hey. Bro, we used to be at that on Day Street. We used to be at that down church, bro. The church used to look out for us, bro. All these canned goods,
all these different they have programs. They have first-time home buyer programs where people only have to put $200, $300, $400 to get a home. You know what I mean? Like, we have
the state has programs. If y'all didn't know that, the state might have programs. There's federal programs and there's also state programs.
And there's also county programs as well.
Yeah, there's so much.
There's so many programs.
Okay, all right. So there's something I wanted to ask you. So we were talking about like things going wrong. So tell me something that went wrong in your real estate journey that you didn't expect, like something just went left out of nowhere.
Honestly, so far, nothing. Nothing that I've actually got into. I've almost got into properties that...
What then later on and have issues?
That I've almost got into properties that I backed out of that end up having issues I found out about later down the road. But actual properties that I haven't ran into, knock on wood, anything that I would consider crazy. Okay. I've had a water heater go out, you know what I mean? Like, nothing crazy. The tenants all have been paying the rent. I've had a couple of tenants that I let slide for a couple months, but I honestly haven't had any. Have I ever even told you any crazy stories? I'm sure I would have told you. There's nothing I can even think of.
Okay, all right. So cool. Yeah, he's right. He's never told me no crazy stories. So let's talk about preventative measures.
Okay.
What did you do? Or what did you do that was in your control to kind of alleviate any potential problems?
So before I got into real estate, I used to go on to like Bigger Pockets, and I used to, reach out and talk to people and go on blogs. And one of the things that I've seen people always talk about was the fear of tenants paying rent on time.
Yeah.
So one measure that I put in place was with my property manager, I wanted them to vet more deep into like their work history and things like that to see how long they've been at their current job and things like that. So it's like,
hold on, let me pause you.
Okay.
yo, when you get into real estate, you have a property manager. Your property manager will almost do anything that you ask them to do, or you can ask them if they're willing to do these things before y'all sign an agreement, right? So if you want your property manager to vet your potential tenants on a more thorough level, then you just have, it's a simple, it's what y'all call my tenant's employer to verify their employment. You know what I mean?
Something
like,
as simple as that.
Yeah, like simple
or when they
things.
bring a pay stub, you know, most of them will say how long they've been employed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like little things like that. So that was for my tenants to make sure that they had, you know, a good job, and they also just to check, make sure they didn't have any nothing like on their credit report, like as far as not paying rent and things like that. So it's like little things like that to go a little deeper into, you know, vetting the tenants. And then I also have my property managers go through, they do a walkthrough every 6 months. So I have them just do a basic walkthrough. I don't need them poking around. I just need them to look at.
Do you pay for that walkthrough?
No. It's free. That's part of that's part of the agreement. So
Yeah.
that's why I pay the property manager. So every 6 months they walk through my my properties to make sure that nothing crazy's happened, no major damage. Like they're not in there to snoop, and it's to, you know, all my tenants know. They know before they sign that they do a 6 month walkthrough just to check, make sure everything, you know, no leaks that went, you know, unnoticed or anything like that. And that little things like that have helped me this whole time and along the way.
All right, now let's double back to the beginning, or where we started, where we were talking about having another source of income kind of allows you or gives you the room to not throw up Hail Mary. So I'm gonna tell you guys something about what he just said. So how he was saying that he wants his property managers to vet people more thoroughly and this, that, and the third was because when he got into real estate, he had another source of income. So when he goes and buys this fourplex, he's not telling his property manager, hey, go get the first person that signs up or that shows interest, let's put them in there so I can make money. You know what I mean? Like, bro, the faster you rush, you know, you're basically just rushing into destruction. You know, so he already had another source of income, which was his job. So he can say, all right, let's make sure that we thoroughly vet these people, you know, because if he's just trying to hurry up and I need to get a return because the mortgage is due in 30 days, you know what I mean? Like if he's just put anybody in there. Yeah. When you bought your first unit, was it already preoccupied?
Yeah, it was already preoccupied. So kind of touching back on having, you know, working another job while I was getting into real estate. So part of when I run my numbers to know what, if it's completely vacant, how much I'm gonna have to come out of pocket. If I have one tenant,
you're aware of that,
right? So I have all these things, and I set up my budget to be based around that, to know like, okay, I need to have this amount of money. So it's like
you're budgeting for vacancies?
For vacancies that never even happened. Yeah. But I'm budgeting for them because I know that it's potential that it could happen. So it's like
it's not out of the
right. So it's like you have to be 10 steps ahead of the game for when this stuff does happen. So luckily for me, I never, obviously I've had vacancies, but they turn around less than a month. Like someone gets out within 2 weeks, someone else is already in it. So it's like, but when I made my budget, I budgeted to know, because you're on the hook for your mortgage, right? You can't tell the mortgage company, oh, I don't have any tenants in there this month, I can't pay. It doesn't work like that.
The bank's like, where's my money at?
Yeah, the bank just wants their money. They don't care what you got going on. So it's like,
they don't care if you was throwing stripper parties.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck about any of that. So it's like you have to do these things, and you have to think ahead of the game, and you have to put the money to the side. It's like I could have been out blowing that money on whatever, but I was being smart. Being, you know what I'm saying?
Taking trips and living the good life, posting pictures, hashtag entrepreneur life, but you were thinking like, okay, bro, I need a budget for this type of stuff.
Yep. So